So today we are working on your foundations. I'm hoping you guys are going to at least watch this video before you continue with the other classes in the classroom. And what I'm going to be going over is, and as well as what I call the secret to asana. It's one of the secrets to asana, let's say it that way, because I feel that what I'm about to tell you can be so important in your practice and can really help you maximize the poses and just the physical practice itself. So the secret is your cat-cows. They pretty much unlock what you need for to maximize the potential of each pose you do. And the saying that I want you to remember, which I feel that many teachers don't really touch on, is every forward fold has a back bend, and every back bend has its forward fold. Okay, so just hold on to that. We'll dig deeper into it. For now, let's break down cat-cows because they are so important and they're a little bit underrated for the purpose that they have. Your cat-cow, by the way, is this action. So the inhale, you arch your spine. This is your cow. You go moo. And then your exhale, you tuck your chin to your chest. You round your spine. And this is your cat, I guess, angry cat. But really, no need to be angry, right? But your cat, meow. And while a lot of teachers do this in the beginning of class to warm up the spine, and it feels so good, understanding what exactly you're doing in your cat-cows and how to use them in your poses is like stumbling on a magical key to the gates of all of the goal poses and just understanding what you're doing in each pose. So that being said, what are you trying to do in your cat-cows? The arching action has a lot of components. Let's start with the hands. Your hands are shoulder width apart, and what you're doing is you're spinning the inner creases of your elbows forward. This spinning action is what you'll need in many of your inversions, your handstands, your downward facing dog, and even your high planks. It's what's going to create you stability in your arm balances and your inversions. So watch my elbows. They start out wide, and then I'm going to straighten my arms. And you see how these elbows, the weenus, is pointing outward? I want my weenus pointing to my knees. Essentially, I want my inner creases of the elbows pointing to you guys. So I'm going to spin my tricep in towards you guys. So my tricep, it starts out here. My weenus starts out here. I'm spinning and rotating this way so that the inner creases face to you without changing the orientation of my hands. This is actually very difficult to do if you don't have the mobility and just if your body's not used to it yet, but it gets easier. The first time my teacher was like, spin your arm like this, I was like this? It's normal, right? But I just want you guys to think about it and to continue to think rotation, rotation, rotation. The rotation feels like you're squeezing your armpits in and you're trying to squeeze your triceps into your rib cage. You're trying to just really crack an egg with your armpits is a really good saying that I've heard before. All right, so your cow position has this action in the arms where the inner creases of the elbows are spinning forward. And then the inhale arches your spine, right? My rib cage flares open and points down, and it's essentially preparing me for a back bend. And at the same time, in order to lift my head and to open, I have to squeeze my shoulder blades back together. So let me see if I can better show this way. Okay. You guys can watch me strip. All right, so my shoulder blades are squeezing back and my shoulder heads are rotating back. So I'm creating length in my neck and I'm squeezing my shoulder blades back and down, right? So if you watch from the side, shoulder blades squeeze back, shoulder heads roll down. These collarbones are broadening, my ribs are opening, and I'm able to stretch open in a back bend from my upper back. So inner creases of the elbows forward, ribs open, shoulder blades squeezing back and down, lifting the head, and then arching your lower back. The arching action of your lower back to lift your tailbone is pretty much the feeling of your inner thighs engaging and slightly rotating inward to arch, right? Everyone knows how to arch the low back, I'm assuming. So this arching action is key in a lot of your forward folds. This lower back of lifting your tailbone up, you will find in your downward facing dog, in your forward folds, in your handstands. And while you arch your lower back, you'll feel a spreading in your behind. You want to feel lift in your pelvic floor. You don't want to just feel as though you're back here and just flaring open wide. You want to open and arch the lower back, but lift your pelvic floor. And you're not going to be able to see it from the camera, but it's a very subtle pull of your pelvic floor up and in. So if you know Mula Bandha, you can do a Google search or search YouTube for Mula Bandha for better descriptions. But it's basically you're lifting your pelvic floor muscles up and in. It's more than just contracting to hold the feeling that you need to pee. It's really as though you had the strength of a vacuum and you could lift up, okay? So cat-cows, arching, shoulder blade integration, tailbone arching, Mula Bandha lifting. And then as you exhale for your cat, you're pushing the floor, you're tucking your chin to your chest, and you're doing this action of scooping your tailbone under. Now look at the shape. My upper back is super rounded. My tailbone is tucked under. My quads should be engaged. And while it feels good to just cycle through it, just hold this shape for a moment. Keep tucking your tailbone under. Keep pushing the floor away. You should feel your core box kind of kick on. This C curve in your spine of pushing and contracting the points of your rib cage and your hip bone, contracting these 2 points is doing a crunch, right? So when we do this action, our core box automatically kicks on. And your cat position is also kind of like your high plank. It's the same concepts. You push the floor away, you tuck your tailbone under, you engage your quads, and you should feel your core fire on. Okay, so it all ties in together when you come back to this saying. Every back bend has a forward fold. Every forward fold has a back bend. Let's take a look at that. Basic forward fold. Feet hips width apart, knees soft, and I'm folding down. Doesn't look very back bendy, does it? And it's not going to look back bendy in the poses when you do it either. It's a very subtle feeling, a very subtle shift. And that's ultimately what's very transformative about the practice, is that when you really get deeper into it, all of the shifts are so subtle and they're so internal that you're just like, oh wow, everything really is within me. So I'm forward folding, and a lot of times we see this. If you're tight, just need to fold down more. The key is to bend your knees to connect your belly to your thigh. With this connection, you can find the back bend in your forward fold. The weight has to shift forward to the balls of your feet, and your head has to tilt down, and you're looking to where you don't normally look. Then from there, you're going to arch your low back. It's so subtle, it's so little, and you're not gonna, it doesn't even look like I'm arching my lower back, right? But the feeling is there. I'm arching my lower back, and I feel my hamstring stretch 100 times more just by that tiny little switch. So your forward fold is your cat position in the upper body, but what you're trying to do is find a cow tilt in your lower body. Yoga poses take our body out of its normal, neutral position. And these poses ask our bodies to do something that it's not used to, right? We have the normal curves of the S curve in our spine, and then we sleep in fetal position, and we stand up, and sometimes we backbend to a degree. But as we practice, the poses take it into all sorts of shapes, which is good because that's what'll keep our spine mobile and our muscles happy and healthy. But within each of the pose, our goal as a practitioner is to re-neutralize the spine. And that's where it gets difficult. So we take it out of its normal curvature, and then we look. It's so counterproductive, right? And then we look to neutralize in that out of neutral position, to find neutral. That's a challenge in each pose. And the secret I'm delivering to you guys today to think about in your practice, okay? Now let's look at a back bend. Let's take Sphinx pose. So Sphinx pose is a back bend that's not too extreme. Oh my. So Sphinx pose is a back bend that's not too extreme. My legs are dragging back and my chest pull forward. And I'm arching my back. This doesn't look very forward foldy, does it? So here's where the forward fold comes in. I want the arch to stay in my upper back. So I'm going to squeeze my shoulder blades back and down, just like your cow position. And then I'm going to pull my toes back, engage my quads, just like your cow position. From there, I'm going to slightly tuck my tailbone, just slightly. You don't need very much. I want to feel as though I can pull my tailbone forward towards the front of my mat. And by doing so, I'm lengthening my spine in two directions. My toes are pulling my spine back. My chest is pulling the top of my ribs forward. And I'm just slightly lengthening my tailbone down by pressing my pelvis into the mat, by pressing my hip bones into the mat. I'm giving a little bit more length where it's the curviest in my spine, where compression happens the most naturally. So arching here, pointing back, slightly tucking as though I'm lengthening my tailbone. Because really, the bendy part of my spine ends at S, my sacral area, right? So my legs can only do so much to lengthen my spine back. I don't have spine down to my hamstrings. They only do so much. So the way I have to compensate to lengthen my spine at the sacral region is by slightly tucking my tail under to provide it a little bit more length for me to make more space in the upper back, where the spine is not so readily bent. So that is where your cat-cows come into play for your basics, your forward folds and your back bends. They also come into play when you start playing with your inversions. This gets a little bit more advanced if you don't have your inversions, so don't worry about it. But I will just show for your future reference. So in order to find balance in your inversions, you have to stack your hips over your shoulders. And for most of us, a lot of us, in order to find our hips over our shoulders, we have to arch our tailbone up. First, watch. This is basic headstand, Shirshasana. My forearms are down, and I'm going to find a cat in my upper body. I'm going to push into the floor, round my upper back, and the crown of the head is down. I pull my ribs in, and that's rounding too. Then from there, I walk my feet in as close as I can without losing the integration of the shoulders. My forearms are pushing down. I'm rounding my upper back. I'm squeezing my armpits in towards one another. I walk in as close as I can. I lift one foot. If I stay rounded, there's no lift up, right? But if I walk in and if I arch my low back, I'm able to lift up. See that? So my upper back is still in that cat position. I'm still pushing the floor, squeezing my armpits, rounding my upper back, pulling my ribs down for core engagement. And then I might arch my hips to find balance. Now, when you're very, very strong in your core and your shoulders, you're able to hold this in a rounded shape. But in the beginning, when you're first learning your inversions, when you're finding your balance, it's usually up here, right? Back to the neutral state of the spine, basically. All right, so that is my little tidbit that I wanted to share with all of you guys. It was a piece of information that unlocked a lot of learning for me, and it helped me tremendously in my own practice. So I hope that it helps you. But as always, there are so many ways to learn yoga. There are so many ways to teach yoga. Take in all the information you can from all the teachers that you can. They all have something amazing and valuable to teach. This is just my way and my experience and my opinion, and I hope it helps. Last little announcement, which I'm very excited to announce, is that I have finally opened my online classroom. And for the past year and a half or 2 years, I've heard so many requests saying they wish they could practice with me. And me, myself, when I travel, it's something that I really miss is teaching to my students and being able to stay connected with them. So this is something that I'm so happy to put out there. And if you want to practice with me, come take class, you can now. I'll link everything below. And I hope to see you guys more in practice and more on the mat. If you guys have questions, always feel free to ask me, message me, leave it in the comments, whatever you like. And if you did find this video helpful, please hit that like for me and hit that subscribe so I can continue to feel like I'm making a difference. And yeah, that's basically it. All right, have a wonderful practice.